Russia breaks down.
That's right.
Ukraine strikes hard. No mercy given. Stay with us. May 8th, 2025.
This is new stuff right here.
The Ukrainian Army's Experts Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Unit is successfully destroying enemy targets. This unit used reconnaissance drones to detect 4 Russian soldiers moving in an abandoned village. The aerial vehicle unit immediately planned an attack on the enemy soldiers who had entered the ruins of
I'm not gonna translate this to English, but if you know Russian or Ukrainian, you know what this means.
buildings. The soldiers are seen entering a shelter. A FPV drone quickly launches an attack on the shelter's entrance. A large explosion follows, and the shelter catches fire. After the first attack, some Russian soldiers exit the shelter and attempt to hide behind walls. Reconnaissance drones were tracking the enemy's every move. The Russians had nowhere left to escape. The drones launched successive attacks, and the enemy soldiers were engulfed in flames. Kamikaze drones and unmanned aerial vehicles dropped bombs to support the attack. At the end of the operation, 4 enemy soldiers were unable to escape and were neutralized.
What is that?
A Russian MTLB vehicle
What?
detected by Ukrainian forces was rendered completely inoperable by a successful kamikaze drone attack. The kamikaze drone targeted the armored vehicle's engine compartment. As the armored vehicle continued to move slowly across the terrain,
right here.
Ukrainian drones launched a series of sudden attacks on the armored vehicle. As a result of these rapid
Wow, look at
attacks,
that.
the armored vehicle suddenly burst into flames.
Suddenly.
The vehicle was reduced to a pile of metal by intense explosions.
Pile of shit.
The crew inside the vehicle was neutralized during the attacks. The MTLB is a Soviet-made multi-purpose light armored wheeled transport vehicle.
Here it is. That's the MTLB. That one looked kind of modified, a little different. It had more stuff on top. But this is like the basic model, I guess. In service, 1970s. So this thing is pretty old, right?
It is commonly used to transport personnel, ammunition, or equipment.
Or whatever, yeah. Oof.
May 4th, 2025. Ukrainian troops spotted a group of Russian soldiers among the ruins of buildings. An attack was launched to remove the soldiers from their position.
Remove them.
After the initial attack, the panicked Russian soldiers immediately began searching for an underground shelter.
This is such a better video quality than any other ones that I've seen so far. I need to find Battalion K2. They got some really good quality footage right here.
Ukrainian surveillance drones relayed the soldiers' every move to the attack unit. Seeing that the soldiers were panicking and heading toward the underground shelter, Ukrainian units launched a swift FPV kamikaze drone attack. After the attack, a cloud of dust rose from the destroyed buildings. Some of the Russian soldiers had already been neutralized. Those who survived fell into even greater panic. They didn't know what to do. Taking advantage of the chaos, unmanned aerial vehicles dropped bombs on different points where the soldiers were located. The successive attacks destroyed everything in the area. Enemy targets were also unable to escape as a result of the attacks. All of them were successfully neutralized.
Oh my God.
May 7th, 2025. Between April 30th and May 6th, tensions escalated rapidly in the direction of Vuhledar, south of the Donetsk front. The Russian army doubled the number of aerial reconnaissance vehicles in order to increase its presence in the area. Russian reconnaissance vehicles were constantly flying over the Ukrainian front lines. This seemed to signal an impending attack.
Why are they keep sending dudes on dirt bikes? That's just wild to me.
Russian forces did not just increase the number of reconnaissance drones. They also increased the number of FPV drones. Despite all this, Ukrainian forces neutralized these threats thanks to advanced electronic air warfare systems. They managed to neutralize many of these drones. Russian forces also increased the number of their vehicle-based attack
Look
attempts.
at that.
They launched rapid attack attempts using buggies and motorcycles. These vehicle groups sometimes consisted of 2 vehicles, while at other times they reached up to 50 vehicles. The sole purpose of the
There's like nowhere to hide right there. Nowhere.
Russian forces' intense attacks was to crown Victory Day on May 9th with a symbolic success. However, all their efforts were in vain thanks to the resolute resistance of the Ukrainian defense. The Ukrainian army had made extensive preparations against ground attacks. Mines that could be remotely controlled were laid along the border routes for motorized vehicles and buggies. As soon as Russian forces launched an intense attack, both FPV kamikaze
Why would you? I'm sorry. Why would you just drive into a ditch? I don't get it.
were laid along the border routes for motorized vehicles and buggies. As soon as Russian forces launched an intense attack, both FPV kamikaze drones and mines were activated. Russian soldiers were neutralized by the mines. Some vehicles attempted to escape with minor damage from the mines. At this point, Ukraine's deadliest weapons, FPV kamikaze drones, came into play and successfully neutralized all targets. The Ukrainian army sent the Russians to their day of victory with heavy defeats. May 7, 2025. The drone team of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Tank Brigade successfully destroyed points that could be used by enemy forces.
Wow.
The destroyed areas included ruined buildings, forest edges, and open fields.
That looks like a DJI Mavic UI. Doesn't that kind of look like it? Or the app or something?
The purpose of this operation was to prevent the enemy from establishing a defense line in these areas. In the first attack, there was a building that appeared to be abandoned. An FPV kamikaze drone approached the building and directly hit the target. The explosion inside the building eliminated the enemy's ability to use this area.
Wow.
The Ukrainian Army's Bikers Team unit successfully destroyed Russian targets with FPV drone attacks. In the first attack, a group of Russian soldiers was spotted advancing in ATV vehicles. The kamikaze drones immediately sprang into action. The enemy soldiers abandoned their vehicles and attempted to flee the attack. The Ukrainian drones pursued the soldiers for a while. Despite attempting to escape with sudden maneuvers, the enemy soldiers were unable to do so. The drones responded instantly to the soldiers.
There's all that UAV jammers going on right there with all that reflection on the video. That's what's going on.
Maneuvering attempts and neutralized them. In the second attack, a moving Russian vehicle was detected. The vehicle was equipped with protection against drone attacks. However, the FPV drone attacked the vehicle's weakest point. The advancing vehicle was forced to stop. The infantry tried to escape, but failed. Another enemy vehicle spots the Ukrainian drone. It knows an attack is coming. It was forced to increase its speed. No matter how much the vehicle increased its speed, the Ukrainian drone quickly caught up with the fleeing vehicle.
Crap.
The FPV drone targeted the driver's cabin of the vehicle.
Wow.
Following the successful attack, the vehicle was rendered unusable.
No shit.
The enemy infantry inside were also neutralized.
That's some old... Yeah, I want to say, though. This is some old-ass car right here. Like, this is, like, the front of this car looks like it was made in, like, 50s or something. You know what I mean?
In the attack. In the subsequent attacks, Russian vehicles advancing without armor were targeted. The enemy targets were successfully destroyed with successful attacks. May 8, 2025. Russian forces launched an intense attack on the Ukrainian front line in the early hours of the morning. The Russian army's infantry was wearing camouflage clothing during this attack. Armored vehicles were coming from behind. It was early morning, but Ukrainian reconnaissance drones were already on duty. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones were constantly scanning the area. Reconnaissance units reported the Russians' coordinated advance to the command center. The Ukrainian army devised an attack plan. The first attack began with artillery fire from Ukrainian artillery units. The artillery fired intensively at the designated coordinates. A Russian armored vehicle decides to retreat to escape the artillery fire.
He's going
Russian
towards it.
soldiers panic as the artillery fire continues. They begin to flee. Ukrainian FPV kamikaze drones are already in the air. The fleeing enemy soldiers are identified with the help of reconnaissance drones. The kamikaze drones launched attacks on the infantry. The unmanned aerial vehicles detected infantry trying to hide and dropped live bombs on them from the sky. Ukrainian forces used drones equipped with thermal cameras to identify the locations where the enemy was hiding and targeted the infantry in hiding. Russian armored vehicles attempting to escape were hit by FPV drones. Some vehicles were damaged by artillery fire. The damaged vehicles were abandoned by their crews, who fled. The remaining vehicles were rendered completely inoperable by effective attacks from drone pilots. As a result of the operation, many enemy targets were neutralized. Russian soldiers were again forced to abandon their vehicles and flee the battlefield. The Russian army continues to launch attacks in an attempt to catch Ukrainian forces off guard.
But they can't.
However, thanks to the precise reconnaissance work of Ukrainian units, these attempts are proving fruitless. May 7, 2025. Ukrainian drones launched attacks on all moving targets in the battlefield. This time, the unit overseeing these operations was the 71st Separate Yegar Brigade Communication Unit, affiliated with the Ukrainian Armed Forces Air Assault Forces. The unit has drawn attention with its drone attacks. All moving equipment and soldiers of enemy forces become targets for this unit. In the attacks on vehicles, drones were equipped with ammunition capable of inflicting greater damage. This enabled moving vehicles to be destroyed more quickly. It has been observed that Russian forces have recently begun using motorcycles to carry out attacks. One reason Russian soldiers may prefer these unarmored vehicles is their speed and ability to make sudden maneuvers. When analyzing the war, the truth becomes clear. The truth is that the Ukrainian army has destroyed all of Russia's armored vehicles. Russian forces, having exhausted their supply of armored vehicles, are now forced to turn to other vehicles. In such cases, neutralizing the enemy becomes as easy as child's play for Ukrainian units. May 8, 2025.
They're stealing shit, man. They're still stealing shit from the abandoned buildings. God damn.
The Ukrainian Air Force carried out another precision strike using a MiG-29 fighter jet. The targets, which belonged to the enemy army, had been identified through prior reconnaissance and intelligence operations. Intelligence reports had pinpointed the target. The target was Russian troops stationed in a residential area in southern Ukraine. Intelligence had confirmed that these houses had been converted into combat shelters. Just hours earlier, armored units and ammunition had been deployed among civilian-looking structures. Two French-made AASM Hammer guided bombs loaded onto the Ukrainian warplane locked onto the laser-designated target. Thanks to precision guidance technology, the Hammer bombs headed toward their targets with almost zero
What is all that red right there? Hopefully that's not blood.
deviation. The first bomb pierced the center of the roof and landed on the ammunition depot. The second bomb hit the adjacent building, leaving no chance of escape for the personnel inside.
It's crazy.
The explosion turned the structures into balls of fire. The presence of fuel and ammunition together made chain reactions inevitable. The mission was successfully completed. As the MiG-29 returned to its route, it left behind only destroyed positions, rising smoke, and silence. May 9th, 2025.
May 9th, that was a big day, right? Victory Day.
Russian targets detected on Ukraine's eastern front were successfully destroyed as a result of reconnaissance reports. The first target detected by reconnaissance drones was a Russian personnel carrier. An FPV drone targeted the engine compartment of the personnel carrier and carried out an attack. The vehicle was severely damaged. Another, much more critical target was also identified by reconnaissance drones. This target was the Tu-S-43 Malva self-propelled howitzer, one of Russia's new generation artillery systems.
There it is, the Malva Tu-S-43, right? This thing looks kind of old, right? To me, this looks like something from like the 80s, maybe the 70s. Think again, this thing was designed between 2019 and 2023, in service 2023, okay? And they only build 8 of them. Only 8. You would think they would want to have like at least 150 or 300 of these, right? There it is. They deployed them into Ukraine in 2024 of June. And then as of May 12th, which was today for me, Open Sources Intelligence website has reported that 2 Malvas have been destroyed during the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There it is.
The Russians had transported the howitzer to the front line to provide support. Armored support vehicles were also present near the howitzer. A Ukrainian FPV kamikaze drone immediately headed toward the howitzer, and it hit its target with pinpoint accuracy.
Nice.
After the attack, a huge explosion occurred and the howitzer was engulfed in flames. After the FPV drones disabled the howitzer, they targeted the truck carrying the howitzer and the armored vehicles accompanying it.
Can't get out.
The transport truck was rendered unusable by 2 successful kamikaze drone attacks. The FPV drones targeted the vehicle's driver's cabin directly to completely prevent the vehicle from being used again. The final attack targeted an armored vehicle near the howitzer. After being identified by reconnaissance drones, the FPV drone locked onto the target. The crew, upon seeing the FPV drone, abandoned the armored tank and fled. The first attack was directed at the upper part of the armored vehicle. The second attack targeted the crew compartment of the armored vehicle. As a result, the possibility of repairing the armored vehicle was completely eliminated. Thanks to the precise observations of Ukrainian reconnaissance drones, Russian forces had brought another state-of-the-art combat vehicle to the brink of being scrapped. May 3, 2025. Crimea, Russia's strategic forward base in the Black Sea, has once again become the target of Ukrainian special forces.
That's on the sea.
At the center of the operation was a special unit called Primary, affiliated with the Ukrainian Defense Intelligence Agency, GUR. As a result of lengthy reconnaissance and intelligence work, important Russian targets were identified. The exact coordinates of the identified targets were determined. These targets were of great value to the Russians. Ukrainian units aimed to destroy these targets, thereby severely disrupting Russia's intelligence and logistical capabilities.
I'm not sure if Russia has any intelligence left at all at this point.
The Ukrainian military launched the operation with the support of electronic warfare systems and unmanned aerial vehicles. First, the enemy's radar systems were neutralized. Then, an attack carried out with FPV drones completely disabled the radars. Immediately afterwards, the target was a Mi-8 helicopter located near the base.
Yeah, I think it's like one of these helicopters that took down, which is, you know, they worth money, man. Like,
explosives placed around the hangar were synchronized with timers and activated remotely. The explosion destroyed not only the helicopter, but also the fuel and maintenance infrastructure in the immediate vicinity. In the final phase, an attack was carried out on Russian military ships in the port. Several ships sustained severe damage, with some rendered unusable, following attacks by remotely guided mini-unmanned naval vehicles and precision munitions fired from the coast.
I'm not sure how many times I have to say it. We already know drones, baby drones. They are winning the war. The drones that the Ukrainians are using right now are pretty good, right? A lot of these drones probably are just, you know, commercial drones like DJI, and, you know, they modified the crap out of them. Like, they're getting really, like, Ukrainians are really good at modifying these just civilian drones or whatever. Most of these drones are still controlled by men, Ukrainian men, but I'm wondering with the AI coming in, you know, I think we can have these swarm of drones that are controlled by AI, right? You can have 200, 300, 400, even 1,000 different drones. I'm sure they already have that, like United States military and a bunch of other militaries have these drones, or at least they're working on these drones that are completely controlled by AI. So you just have one guy controlling 1,000 drones and just give them the little tasks. I don't know if you even have to give them tasks anymore. They'll just, like, you know, it's in the program, it's in the system. This is very, war is changing in front of our eyes, you guys. And tanks, I've said it again, and I'm gonna say it again. Just tanks are just not it. It's a metal trap. The drones are cheap, and the tanks are just big and bulky and scrap metal at that point, and they're expensive, right? Let me know in the comment section on what you guys think is the most interesting thing about this war, this drone war that we're witnessing. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Iron Media. They do some badass videos on their channel. Make sure to check them out. The link to their channel will be in my video description. Щось скажу на українською, на суржику. Привіт усім, я вас всіх люблю. Вибачайте, я переключаюсь на українську, чи на русську, чи на English. Мене каша. Don't forget to like and comment. Підпишись, subscribe, it's free. Це безкоштовно. And we'll see you guys next time. До побачення.